Welcome to Endless Truth, where we dive deep into the wisdom surrounding us, uncovering life's most valuable lessons through heartfelt conversations. I'm your host, Hondo, Warrior of the Heart, and in each episode, we sit down with the incredible voices, family, friends, and experts who share their stories of love, perseverance, and truth. Together, we explore the intersections of life, faith, and everything. If you're ready to discover new perspectives and connect with deeper truths, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us on this journey. Let's get started. Today, I'm honored to welcome an incredibly inspiring guest to Endless Truth, the one and only talented Mr. Drayton. As a fellow podcast host and someone who's built a platform rooted in authenticity and courage, Mr. Drayton brings a unique and powerful voice to conversations about tenacity, resilience, and overcoming life's challenges. Living with cerebral palsy, he has faced obstacles that many of us can't even imagine. Yet, he continues to push boundaries and defy expectations with grace, humor, and unwavering strength. In today's episodes, we'll dive into the heart of his journey, exploring what it means to live with resilience, how he's cultivated tenacity in the face of adversity, and what we can all learn from his story. I know you'll find his insights as inspiring and enlightening as I do. Please join me in welcoming the talented Mr. Drayton to the show. Okay. So today, I am at the seat of power with the one, the only talented Mr. Drayton. Now, while I can go on and on about him, I'm not. I am going to let him introduce himself to the people. Mr. Drayton, take it away.
Please go on. Nothing better in life than somebody else gives you accolades. That's why I chose the stage. I always wanted to hear complimentary things about myself. That's the very Donald Trump-esque part of me. But anyway, so other than that, what would you like to know? I mean, where do we start?
So I would like to know, what was your first real life lesson in having resilience?
Oh, holy moly. Okay. Well, for those who don't know, I was born with cerebral palsy. Shockingly, people don't know that. That shocks me because
That's true.
I don't hide behind any particular thing. In the world, people have met me in person. That shocks me. But my first experience with resilience, I didn't walk until I was about 3 or 4. And I distinctly remember waking up from my first surgery. Like, people say that you don't remember pain and that you, you know what I mean? Like, you don't remember being born because it's so painful, you just don't remember it. But for some reason, I distinctly remember this pain. And just throughout these wonderful 51 years, I have never experienced it again. But I remember taking my first steps and how completely painful and utterly disorienting that was. And I remember my mother and the therapist and the doctor just saying, you have to. There was no choice. So as a 4-year-old, saying you have to, like other 4-year-olds have to eat their peas, you have to eat their vegetables. But somebody, and then an adult that you love, your mother, your father, telling you have to do this thing. This thing will change your whole entire life. At 3 or 4 years old, your life is cartoons, the electric company, and whatever else there is on television. So that's your life, and something so adult, something that you have to do. I think, and I remember what I can remember as the smell of, seeming like it was formaldehyde, but you're too young to remember the smell of hospitals in the 70s were like cleaning supplies and the blue water from the thermometer. I remember those distinct smells and hospital food wafting down the hall. Very shiny, super shiny floors that you could almost see your exact reflection in. Those awful iridescent lights, and they weren't recessed in the ceiling; they were just hanging down. They were neat. It was clean. It looked more like a insane asylum than a hospital. It was the Children's Hospital in Richmond, Virginia. I was blessed to grow up, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes from there, and it was one of the best hospitals for children with cerebral palsy in the country. Talking about God putting you where you need to be when you need to be there. I remember, the doctor and the mother and the nurses, my father telling me I had to do this thing. And I didn't know what resilience was. But I remember that this thing that I had to do, which was walk, would make my parents and all of this stuff that I just went through incredibly worth it. So I think that day I went from 4 to 10 in chronological years. So you had to grow. You had to get. I don't think people talk about it enough. You have to get a different understanding of life and where you fit down in that thing. So yeah, I think that was pretty much one of the first times that I had to. I remember that resilience had to be. I mean, just the circumstances of my birth in general was an exercise in just sheer tenacity. I was born. My mother was only 4.5 months pregnant when I was born. I weighed 1.5 pounds. I was born in a toilet, which may explain my love of the bathroom.
Love a bath.
I do. I love a clean.
Love a wonderful, spacious bath.
I do. I think I probably spent the most money on my bath. But my mother thought she had to pee. My godmother scooped me out of the toilet, hit me on my ass, and I cried. I weighed 1.5 pounds when I was born. I was in the hospital for 6 months. I came home weighing 18 pounds, 17 pounds as a 6.0. It was ginormous. So I ate the world. So I guess, your body keeps score. So I guess that was, my first true tenacity, mind you, veering into tenacity. But the first thing I remember is being 3 years old, and 3 or 4 years old, and walking. Yeah, it's yeah, so a whole lot of things came from that one thing, like my love of music. I remember taking my first steps to Michael Jackson's "Can't Stop Till You Get Enough," and that cemented my love of rhythm and music and all those things. And then having to rehab over a series of summers throughout my life, and that cemented my love of pop culture and reading I had to do well in school because almost every other summer I had to have a surgery. So I couldn't afford to fail. I had to stay ahead. So, that kind of made me do well in school, and doing well in school kind of made me I got into, college for free, and then I went to grad school. So it kind of went on. So that a whole lot of things came from that one. And 18 surgeries later, you kind of build on that tenacity. You kind of build, okay, well, I did it last time. I did it this time. I'm taking this and running with it. But, and you can flash forward to 51. I just had a fall about 14, 15 months ago. And right in this room,
the room where it happened. Shout out
2 couches ago. No, because I changed this room intentionally.
And actually, to speak to that, because we are talking about resilience today and being intentional about taking intentional action to change your circumstances. Where did that come from on a conscious level for you?
Gosh, wow. Some of those things in life that just have to be. It's just, there was no way to survive. It was just, it's a matter of getting in the morning, you take your first breath, you have to make a conscious effort. To reverse engineer your question or your statement, I don't understand why people don't. I don't understand how people don't, because now that's my disability, that's my family construct. That's my mom. My mom and my stepfather were very, we're gonna make it. We're not gonna live like good times. We're not gonna live like their brothers and sisters and my aunts and uncles. We're gonna live better. We're gonna move out to the county, live better. We're gonna do better. We're gonna strive because we can. And I remember my cousins and them going to school when they felt like it. Shit, not in my mother's house. You going to school, she would flip the mattress over on you. And, she would just tell you, after you graduate, you can do whatever you want, but you won't do it in here. If you would like a place to live and something to eat, this is your job. I never forget another life turning point. I was like 7. And I remember she looking at me, she said, your job is to go to school. When I get my pocketbook and my keys, every bitch in here going. Every mother, I ain't leaving no motherfucker behind in here. Everybody getting in this goddamn car, you getting on the bus, everybody going to do their job. That's just there was no, and so, I don't know, even now, I don't live in the land. I'll tell you in a minute I did it because I didn't want to do it, or I did it because I wanted to do it. But there's no excuse why I couldn't do it, or I didn't try. That's not, I don't know those. I don't know, and hearkening back to the fall, people are like, you should move into the living room. It's not a bedroom, that's a living room. You know what I mean? My bed don't belong in that. And then what adversary the steps were my adversary. What adversary do I have? What goal do I have? If somebody brings everything to you, you do not appreciate the thing that they bring to you. Because it was so easy. It wasn't worked for. It wasn't attained. It wasn't. You don't cherish it. And so the thing is, you have to cherish the thing that you work for. So I cherish my independence. I cherish the fact that I can walk. And I have to understand. Okay, well, I'm not quite where I want to be, but. This is where tenacity comes in. I tell you this all the time. You can at any moment sit down and change your circumstances with the stroke of a pen, a phone call, an idea, and so I can't believe I'm saying this in public, but as hood as my family could be, and they were just dreamers, especially my parents. There was nothing that they believed that I could not do, my siblings as well. And I remember my father and my stepfather were always in battles of what they could do because I was everybody's baby. So my father bought me a car. My stepfather bought me an ice cream truck. Yeah, it's just really, and we worked on, and so my stepfather was like, I didn't realize what a putting a dick on the table moment this was, or just a cheesemo at work. He was like, can you stay home this summer? We can work on the ice cream. And we put together an ice cream truck, and I got to keep all the profits. And that was my first foray into business. It was, okay, if you buy, 18, popsicles, how much do you sell those popsicles for? And my father, who was not a college educated man, my stepfather, Roland, was not a college educated man, but could run a business like nobody's business. He was a perfect weed salesman.
That's important.
It is. Let me just
because kids don't know is that once upon a time, you really had to work to get your weed. There was no dispensary. There was no legalization.
And you went to Roland to get the weed.
So
and so Roland worked, and so we. My mother worked and sold candy. They were business people in the community, and they were pillars in the community. They were just. My mother had furs and Cadillacs. I had ice cream trucks, and troop suits, and dope gold chains. And I didn't realize, so weed it wasn't that you were selling dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You was just really providing a service to people at that time. Late 70s, early 80s, on to the 90s. And so it wasn't, like, oh my God, you're a horrible drug dealer, just, oh, he sells weed. And I remember, now that I think of Ziploc bags full of weed and money on the bed, I guess he was a weed kingpin, though. But I think about those. But lesson taken from that was ice cream truck. Ice cream truck. This is how you run a business. This is what, this is how you do this. And so by the time I got to college, it was just to learn how to do it on paper. So the other life lesson I learned was my mother's eldest sister, my aunt Shady Mae Wright. She sold liquor in her house, and that's how I learned algebra. Pints, quarters. We would pour liquor, and she would sell liquor in baby jars. So we had to know the ounces and the milliliters.
Yeah, I let AI.
But the whole this, I think it's just one of those things where your life circumstances kind of add all up to. So the initial question of how we got to this interview was, talk to me about tenacity. when it's ingrained in you, there's no roadmap. There's nothing concrete I can say to you, go A, turn left, and, go one step past the blue house and go to the left. It's more like take your life circumstances and make them better. As long as God gives you tomorrow, you can't worry about yesterday. And so I have been experiencing, as I get older, the spirit of procrastination. I don't know what that is and where it comes from. I've never had this. But I'm like, so I have to tell myself, because I don't want to do this thing because I'm viewing it negatively. Such and such. And the consternation has caused me great things in my life not to happen. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get 51, 52 and start doing this shit. I just finished telling you, I'm Mr. Right Now. Look, I have no excuse not to do this right now. I mean, yeah, I'm doing other shit, but why? What is 10 minutes going to make out of my day? What is 30 minutes going to make? And I have to verbally, physically tell myself, you're going to have to do this thing right now. It's just like the last 10 years, I make my bed every day. Like, I make my bed every, even if I'm getting back in it, I make my bed. And so what that behavior does, first of all, it gives you a sense of completion of one thing. If you don't do anything else, you have completed that one task. And the rest of my day could fall to shit. It really could, but just that one thing. And then when I get back upstairs, that thing is done. I look in my room, it's clean, it's orderly. I walk into my office, it's clean, it's orderly. I walk in the bathroom, it's clean, it's orderly. And that's the thing about it. And sometimes it's hard work. I'm like, fuck, I don't feel like doing this. But I think about the feeling that I get when I walk in that room and that shit is all tore up and it's all, not its best. And so I can't definitively answer your question of where does tenacity come from with me. I can just tell you it is a life lived of purpose and being driven and having to do something. I think that's the thing. Lots of people live a life where they don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? And then they get 40 or 50 and you have to do something. They can't do anything because they were not pushed. They were not made to. They were not expected to. And they think they have a hard life when, I have a beautiful home and a beautiful car and a nice job. I got to spend all my money on these things. Is that a hard life? But you have the job to pay for these things.
Right.
Is that a hard life? No, it's not. It's adulting. Or, I don't have a date. I'm not a partner. I don't have a wife. I don't have a husband. But you've had dick before, or you've had pussy before, and you will have it again. And so, because I know I have mentored people that have never felt the touch of another human being. We can imagine that. Even, you're very much a hugger. Even just in a good morning hug or a goodbye hug or a hello hug, there are people in this world that have never had that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I'm just talking about things that we take for granted. Imagine. Can you honestly imagine going into a store and honestly, everybody's had financial challenges. Imagine if you were in America, you're in the middle class, we all had financial. But can you imagine honestly going into a store and wanting and having no food and you need food and there's absolutely, you cannot have food because you don't have a resource.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah, people think our lives are like, oh my God. Before this interview, I was about to do laundry. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do the laundry. We don't have clothes.
Yeah.
You complain about, I think we laugh and say first, but it's true.
It's true. Yeah.
It's very true. And so I tag all of that in because I know poor people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know people that are so physically disabled they can't. And now they won't. I know people that disenfranchise themselves into thinking they are not able. Or they are so used to manipulating others to do what they want. And I have people like that in my life. And I'm like, okay, so you think you're manipulating me by doing this thing, but you're not, because I obviously know. Right. I'm doing it because I don't want to fucking have to go back and do it after you.
After you mess it up.
After you fuck it up, because you will.
Because you will.
And I don't know if you're going to fuck it up on purpose, but then you begin to ask yourself the question, like, what would you do if I was dead? Like, if I wasn't here to do it, who would do it for you? But you can gain tenacity. You can gain it, but it's just like, you have to tell yourself, I have to, harken back to my childhood. You just have to tell yourself, this is the way. I would never, and I was telling my physical therapist the other day, I would never forget, you stood at the bottom of the steps one day, and I was having some struggles getting upstairs, and I really was cussing myself. I know, but see, that's the only way I can explain tenacity. I mean, you saw it.
Yeah.
It's all like, it was like, get your motherfucking ass. I don't know who can listen to this interview, but get your motherfucking ass up the steps, and boop, boop, boop. And you better do it now. And so people are like, well, what is that all about? That's how I know how to motivate myself. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think I try hard enough. And it's like, okay, you're not doing this because you're not doing this. You're not doing this because you're not trying hard enough. It's you'll see me and my therapist working out here, and she'll just be like, just try it one more time. I'm like, ugh. And then finally I'm like, nigga, she's not going to let you fall. You know what I mean? And if you do fall, here's the life lesson. If you do fall, ain't nothing down there but the ground. You can always get back up. And if you don't, there's somebody in the world who's going to help. And we are so, and I tell you this all the time, don't overplan. Don't be afraid to fail. And that's another thing about tenacity. People don't have it because they're afraid to fail. There is beauty in failure. You understand what I'm saying? Because you know not what to do. I won't do that no more, huh? It's just like when we get adults and have relationships and divorces and and all these things, and so then what not to do. Mm-hmm. So there is and failure builds tenacity. It does, because you could be stuck in a situation and you get there. It's like MacGyver. All the walls are closing in, and you've tried everything. But are you going to hire yourself to fall? Are you going to let yourself die in that moment? Are you going to let yourself perish or fade away or get hurt by this thing? No. You're going to keep trying something. You're going to keep calling out, going to do whatever it is. So just think about life in that particular mode. You can never give up. You can never give in. Mm-hmm. And if this thing doesn't work, and if God gives you tomorrow, you can try again. Now, the one thing you don't know unless you try. How do you know? I often see people try to plan out all the pitfalls. You cannot think of everything in every situation. I mean, you can do the best you can.
Right.
I think education and life experience tells us, okay, well, I've done this before, and this turned out like this, and I'm not going to do this. Yes, that's fine. That is being, learned and cautiously optimistic and all those things. But I know people that start shit, don't finish it because they're afraid of, what if I fail in this thing? Now, the other juxtaposition of this is simply, what if I succeed? That's the same thing. So there's a tenacity of failure, there's a tenacity of success. The tenacity of success is, if I'm successful at this one thing, how do I go further? What if I only get here? Mm-hmm. They can't see my hand, but I ended up in there.
You can imagine.
You can imagine I have my hand up in there. But so the fear and the tenacity of success is simply, I have reached my pinnacle in life, and now I have nowhere to go. You start something else. You can, if you made that far in that particular thing, you can go further. It's like those people who peak in high school and now they look awful. They were the cheerleader and the quarterback and this, that, and the third. And now they live in a trailer because they don't have the tenacity of success, and which it goes hand in hand with the tenacity of failure, because it's yin and yang. You can't have the opposite. And I always tell people, they go, oh, you have businesses and stuff. But all the things I've tried, I've owned fucking fitness companies. I've worked for governments. I
even had a time as a bridal shop manager.
Yes, I managed. And
not just any old bridal shop. I mean, we talking about upper echelon in Atlanta. You've seen it on TV. I'm not going to say where, but because they're not paying us.
Right. Wow, I forget about it. Yeah, and I worked there for almost a year. Oh, wow. And yeah, so like, and it was just something I wanted to try. Like, I have no retail background. I have no fashion background. And I just jumped in with both feet and said, this is the thing that I want to do.
Which is really why I wanted to have this conversation, because I want to recap for people, for them to understand, is that born at 4 months prematurely in a toilet, cerebral palsy.
Well, I haven't even talked about the wife and kid portion.
Well, that's the thing. We're going through it. Not walking until 4. And every step of the way being told that you wouldn't make it to whatever the next milestone age, whether it was 13, 16, God, 18, 20, 21, you're not going to graduate from college, you're not going to get married, and seeing the negative images in the world of, people with physical disabilities being mistreated, in some cases abused or left behind, being in school, and because you have a physical disability, wanting them to put you in special education, even though there's nothing wrong with your mind, and overcoming all, not even over, I don't even think they were things to overcome. It was obstacles to just blow through.
Well, it's life. You know what I mean? You never take, I remember I met my ex-wife. It was like, what's wrong with you? And you tell people it's done. I know people I've been knowing all my life, they never ask. And they see on social media, so I was like, I never knew that. Like, oh, you're the kid that walked funny. You know what I mean? And like, it's amazing, where you have kids like, one of the grands or one of the nieces or nephews ask. It's so pure and so innocent, you know what I mean? But that's another life lesson that I would urge people. Never stop being curious. Never stop. Like, what is it like to run away? But I do want to tell your audience that, listen, tenacity can't be taught. It just has to be gained. And then life experience is earned. And belief in oneself is garnered through actions. And dark days are ahead. So now it is your choice to bend your arc towards the light or the dark, and to pay attention to more of the good days or the bad. That is completely on you. But as I sit in this room, I think about when I failed. I think about the juxtaposition of me falling and discovering on this very wall to my left that I really could not get up. I was like, I can't get up. But just because I couldn't give up, then I wasn't going to give up. I crawled to the bathroom, which I probably should have done. I probably should have just kept still and went to the emergency room. God bless. But it wasn't in my story. I crawled to the
it worked out exactly how it was.
And then that very night, I watched RuPaul's Drag Race in the kitchen in excruciating pain.
Shout out to RuPaul.
Yeah, and I remember the tears as we laughed, and tears just rolling down my face. It was bad. I couldn't go upstairs. I had to have somebody come carry me upstairs. But in the solitude of when I finally got upstairs, which was a Saturday, I fell on a Friday. I finally got someone to carry me upstairs on Saturday afternoon. I'll never forget. It was at 1:30 in the afternoon. And for those of you who've never been in my room, it's very plush. It's very nice. My room is very nice. So I laid in the bed, and in that solitude, I had to think, you're going to have to shit, piss, or get up off the pot. Now is now. Whatever you learned in your life, now is the time. I laid there until about Sunday afternoon, and I made 2 phone calls that absolutely changed my life. I called 2 people that absolutely changed my life, and they and they reaffirmed my belief in humanity and the belief that I could. One of them was a stranger and one of them was not. And both of them are in the same field. But I said all that to say, in that solitude of those hours, I had to figure out what's next. Like, look here, baby.
And who you want to be.
Right. You got to figure out what, like, is this something at the time, almost 50, that you want to battle through? Or do you want to go somewhere, sit down, get a chair, rearrange your life? It is up to you. But the muscle memory of tenacity, that's what it is. It's muscle memory. The muscle memory kicks in. Probably again against my better judgment. I put my feet on the floor and I sat on the edge of the bed. Slept in an office chair for 3.5 months. Oh my God, it was so terrible. I'm sleepy now. But yeah. And so, like, what do? Like, I slept in a goddamn office chair. Like, my family had to bring me food. My family had to bring me water. You know, the only thing that I had to, for a few weeks, I had to use the bathroom in my room, which I totally hated because, you know, my bedroom smelled like a porta potty. If anybody knows me, I don't think for smells, and that's not a good smell. Yeah, so the work gets hard, the light gets dark, and all those things, but just sheer tenacity kicks in. When the rubber meets the road, you have to figure out, like, what the fuck am I going to do? I mean, you know, life, when I decided, well, I didn't decide, life decided I was moving to Atlanta. I never went back to New York. And and I've never regretted my decision, ever. And then I never regret my decision making those phone calls. I never made, you know. So life will happen, people. Life will happen. And it's about the decisions. So not all the time when we are faced with those decisions will we make the right decision, hindsight wise. But it was the right decision the moment you made the decision with what you had. But let me say this again. It's pushing forward. It's about what will happen if I sit, what will happen if I lay, what will happen if I stand. Think about each position you take and what will happen in that position. Yes? And think about the possible, don't overthink it, but think about the possible outcomes and like where you would want to be on the other end of this outcome. And I chose that I wanted to walk and live and love and thrive. And almost a year to the day, I boarded an airplane headed towards St. Martin and St. Bart's. You know, it was a good time. Was I disappointed that, you know, I had to kind of modify my trip? Yeah, but, you know, it was worth it. Before that, it was a trip to the Beyonce concert, you know, and it was, you know, and I remember my doctor saying, like, fuck are you doing these things? You know, tenacity.
To close on a solid note.
Solid.
Exactly. What is your number one tip for parents who want to cultivate tenacity in their children?
Believe in your children, as you tell you what, there's nothing. The sheer belief in yourself that I can, I will, and I will. And I said I will twice because you can. There's no, you have to look at it positively. We have whatever nature strikes against us, gay, queer, you know, questioning, whatever trope someone can throw against you. But believe in your kids as you believe in yourself. I think as black parents, sometimes we are, motherfucker do this and motherfucker do, you know, no. Yeah, do raise them tough because the world is hard out there. Yeah. But if they want to play the viola, you know, the piccolo, whatever, anything in between, nurture that. Talk to them like they're adults. Don't baby them. Don't pacify and don't think about every bad behavior. Pass on the power of belief. That's it. And, you know, give them a structure. You know, let them know that it is okay to believe in yourself. It is okay to fail. You know, you have to give them a permission structure. You have to give them that. That's the one. Just because you have to. Because that's the thing. That's what creates the fear when the parents don't allow you to have power to believe and to do what is necessary or to make decisions. You know, I remember my niece and nephew, Christian, everybody was young. As soon as you're able to talk, you can pick out your own damn clothes and you know what your colors are. You know what I mean?
Trusting
yourself.
and creating trust within the child.
Yeah. You know, I remember we giving him pick your time to go to bed. You know what's going to happen. If it's too late, you're going to be tired. Right? He only picked 30 minutes past the time that we suggest, and he was fine. My mother did the same thing. The consequences, you still going to school. You're going to be tired or not, that's on you. So if you're in the sound of my voice, teach your children to believe. And that may be hard because you may not believe in yourself, but start that work as well, so that when you come what you do and have them be adjusted.
And that's it from the desk of the talented Mr. Drayton.
Listen, somebody come over here and do this laundry.
Until next time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Endless Truth. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, grounded, and connected to the deeper truths in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review and share it with someone who could use wisdom and love. And remember, your support helps us continue to bring meaningful conversations to life. Until next time, keep seeking, learning, and staying true.